Okay, we are now recording, so welcome everyone to the June, always have to look at the date, 11th MicroProfile Live Hangout. And the link to the meeting minutes is in the chat, so join the meeting minutes and add your name to the list of contributors. Basically, people that are attending this meeting, please add your name. And also, it is everyone's shared responsibility to take notes while the meeting is going on. So I forgot, Kevin, Zoom does not reserve keep the chat for people that join in a little bit later?
Correct. I just reposted the Hangout minutes.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I always get mixed up between Blue Jeans and Zoom and all the other ones. Okay. So I am now going to share my browser. Okay, now I can also move the screen over here. And I'm going to go full screen. Okay, so again, please add your name to the meeting minutes if you're currently on the line. It's a packed agenda today, so I'm going to request that, if possible, keep a section. I guess whoever's leading the section as brief and succinct as possible. And I guess I will go ahead and start out saying that last week we had a meeting with, last meeting we had a meeting with Mike Milinkovich to discuss the Eclipse Foundation specification process and basically how to deal with IP flow. So that meeting is recorded. It's in the YouTube channel, which I added to the top of the meeting minutes. You should see recorded minutes, a link to the YouTube channel, and you can go and watch that. It's also here. It's also linked on this line. So please provide feedback, and I have this open here.
Hey, John?
Yes?
John, for some reason, your screen is not getting updated.
Really? Oh, yeah. Interesting. I know why. I bet you I know why. I switched monitors. I moved it to a different monitors. It should be recording the app and not the screen. Let me try this one more time. Thanks for letting me know. Not that one. Where did it go?
Hello, everyone.
Hey, Mila.
Night.
Okay. I'm looking. Here it is. Let's try this now. And please make sure you're on mute if you are not speaking. Okay. Does everyone see my screen now?
Yes.
All right. Yeah. Lesson learned. Another lesson learned. Okay. So there's a link here to the doc for the Q&A that I started with regards to IP flow. So if anyone has any questions based off of the last meeting with Mike Milinkovich, which was fairly detailed around IP flow, please ask it here. I forgot who it was. I'll add your name as well. I'll go back and add the name here. In the Google group, I mentioned that they added a couple of questions here. So I would like to have, some questions primed up for Mike so that we can put him at this document and he can kind of answer them all at once. So if you can do that, please do that.
But Ryan, John, there is no rush on providing this feedback because the meeting just occurred 2 weeks ago. What is cool is that we're bringing transparency to, hey, ask your questions so you miss the meeting or get the meeting. We can push that over media to get more people that were not on that call to at least read the minutes and listen to the 1 hour call because it was pretty much focused on this. But I don't want us to see rushing onto something. We don't have to do anything at the moment. And every single time, especially with what is happening in the industry, so I prefer us to be as elegantly nice on how we proceed. We are not going to get pushed around, and that is not going to, that's, I want to make sure that there are no deadlines for our community, for the community that is doing the work.
Well, there will. I think the first thing that we have to do is identify any potential IP flow gaps, right? Which is kind of what we're doing right now. And the second is going to be how do we address them? And one recommendation from Mike is to take a look at the Eclipse Foundation spec process. So,
but all of it is changing as we are working on other stuff that you will know. So what I'm saying is, the idea, because I was on the call, is that we need to be sure of bad candidates or bad movers. But at the moment, we don't have that issue. We need to be careful on how we proceed. And I really like that QA, and I think we should push it. But I don't want anyone to feel rushed that we need to adjust because of it. I was the one to ask, what happens? What happened if we don't do anything this year? It's like, we do not know. So let's realize we don't have a deadline. We are poor-minded if we add ourselves a deadline, and I don't want to see that. So let's cut the crap.
well, it's not cutting crits. It's not crap. This is a pretty important legal.
This is why.
Hmm?
This is why I'm saying let's not add deadlines to something so serious. We don't have deadlines. I don't want to impose ourselves a deadline that we will be rushing and poor equipped to handle based on the changes that are happening.
I think we should have a self-imposed deadline, right? Otherwise, it's not going to get resolved. So let's not do that right now. Let's I think do a little bit of analysis about the gaps.
Good. That's all I ask.
We can discuss, yes, and that's okay, right? But I prefer not too much time go between Mike's presentation and kind of the Q&A doc.
QA can be live right now and can be being fed with the stuff. Totally cool. But we do need to add something similar to who is asking the question. If they are not able to, he or she not able to add their names, we delete the question. We will use the same parameters as the minutes.
So I'll have to update the doc to do that, to make sure that we have people's names in front. And I'll go back and re-add, was it Louis?
Copy paste from this thing.
Yeah, someone's name. So, okay. All right. So that was intended to be a brief update, but
it's so important and it cannot be brief.
So just an FYI, everyone, take a look at the video if you haven't seen last week's meeting. Good meeting, lots of detailed information. So you may find yourself pausing the video and backing it up. Take a look at, ask any questions you have to the doc. And then, all right, I don't want to rewrite myself again. Okay, Kevin, anything to add to that?
To that, no, other than I do happen to know that Mike is on vacation, so we don't have any immediate need. So at least from a deadline perspective, we do have some time to collect more questions on that.
All right.
Okay.
All right. You want to go ahead and take the next bullet item then? Agenda item.
Sure. So hopefully most of the people on the call they saw where MicroProfile 3.0 was released this morning. So congratulations. Thank you very much. Yep.
By the way, special thank you to you, Kevin, because you've done all the MicroProfile releases so far.
Yeah. Well, actually, John did do one along the way, and he did volunteer to do the next one. So
I already filed an article on this, and it's like super awesome. But I was saying, do we have the technical guidelines to enable others to help on the releases? Because I know thus far only two. You, Kevin, and John have done the releases, but I didn't see the wiki. I only saw the wiki that you added what has changed with the template, but there is not actually a formal, let's say, step one, the expectations of someone new. They might want to follow it. And we should have someone totally different than anyone that is very known do the next release and see how they do it to formulate that document that doesn't exist yet. That would be my recommendation.
There is a process, but in my experience, doing releases is a thankless job no one's lining up to do.
That's very true, David.
Well, I signed up for the next one because so I'll be doing 3.1.
And we do. I mean, I know I'm updating it again today, the wiki for our release process, because I just found another wiki page that we have not been keeping up to date. And so I'm going to be doing that as well. So I think we do try to keep that up to date. Getting to your comment, Amelia, about someone brand new doing it and wondering whether or not we have sufficient education or documentation, that really would be up to someone brand new to take a look to find out if we have enough information. Now I know the first time that John did it, he quizzed me on a lot of the topics, and I found out, oh yeah, okay, I forgot to document that. So every time we get a new person, it's really their responsibility to look at
Correct.
the current instructions and find out what's missing.
So then, John, you are disqualified to do 3.1. Someone else needs to own that, and we have a few months.
Hold on. So one of the things that we did in like early days of Geronimo, just because it ended up being me doing all the releases for like several in a row, and to break the cycle, eventually we did this thing where we kind of like had someone would do pilot and co-pilot. So the pilot would be someone who had done the release already, and the co-pilot was going to be the person who was going to do the release as pilot next time, right? And so, because there's usually a lot of stuff that's not documented, it's kind of unrealistic to expect someone new to come in there and be able to be productive without having lots of questions. And so basically, if we were to do that this time around, basically, we could have it, John be pilot and Kevin be co-pilot. Calling it spade, right?
Sorry, someone's going to have to go on mute. Kevin, I don't know if you're...
Yep, I just got him.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anyway, so basically, if John's pilot this time around and Kevin's co-pilot, then sometime, basically, if we want to get somebody else to be productive with the releases, we would do the same pattern. John could be the backup for somebody who is completely new, but only once John knows what he's doing. And we intentionally rotate so that we can get a good 4 or 5 people that are capable of doing releases. And then we'd be in a healthy spot.
Yep.
I don't know if I still qualified as brand new, but maybe I can volunteer for being a co-pilot to see how the process works.
Ah, wonderful, Edwin.
Yep.
You do qualify because if you haven't done a release, you're totally new. You've got a baby.
Yeah, level 1. Yeah.
So we are adding you here in the minutes to say you will do the next pilot, and I think John should be the senior and you the trainee.
Well, both of them haven't done a release, so you need somebody there who can fly the plane, right? So
John did it already once.
Yeah, I did it like a year ago.
But that's too long. That's
It's not exactly fresh, but
yeah, exactly. It's a while ago. So basically, the reality is there's no way Kevin's going to get out of not being intimately involved in the release for the next time around. Somebody else can take a lot of the work, but he's probably going to get put in.
So then let's add the 3 of you. Let's add it to the minutes.
Works for me.
And we add it to the. We have everything in the calendar, which is super nice. So okay, awesome.
Okay, thanks.
But you realize that means that you're pilot for the release after that.
Yeah.
Good. All right, because that's the goal, right? You're getting trained to actually fly the plane.
I want to see this in the minutes. I want to see this in the guidelines saying, this is the pilots. This is how it works. If you agree to be part of pilot, you will do the next one. Let's add that as a guidelines. Police.
Maybe we should add that we need a pilot schedule or something like that.
And at the same time we need to work out the next release timing as well, the dates. We said it's October time, right?
Yeah. So we've got the ending date already in place.
Yeah.
Right. We'll gear up for that. Okay, cool.
Yeah, we agreed on the whole three releases a year schedule. And,
yeah, the dates are already set, so it's super easy to navigate them.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then Edwin can put in your calendar now.
Yep.
And add the MicroProfiles that are in charge of it, so everyone knows. We should just tweet that next release is going to be. I'm going to tweet that right now and take a photo of it. Hold on. I know.
I'm gonna have to get a whip cracking sound every time I do. Audio every time I do. Okay. So anyway, I think we've got this item nailed down. Kevin, the next if you want to be or in.
So I don't know if we have anybody on to talk to it, but one of the questions that John and we were talking about yesterday as we were prepping to do the final prep for 3.0 is we know that well, context propagation, reactive messaging, even GraphQL, I think they're getting close to becoming a 1.0 release, and just wondering what the status of those were. Do we have anybody on that can address?
Yeah, and I can talk about a little bit about reactive messaging because I just done 1.0 RC1. So just before I come back home, I'm going to send an email to the Google Group mailing list to say the 1.0 RC1 is released.
Okay, thank
So
you.
good job with the team. And I just will start the CQ process tomorrow, and then make sure is all the CQ like I take it erased.
Yeah, that's good. So that actually feeds into the next item too.
Yes.
Is the standalone specification requirements, is because.
Well, before I
because
apologize. I don't know if Kevin, if you're getting into that, or if we should finish the status of the other two.
Yeah.
So hey, this is
fine.
Andy. I can speak for context propagation.
Okay.
So this one has been in release candidate for several months now. I want to say like 3 or 4 months. Basically, we're just waiting for feedback. It's pretty stable, pretty quiet. I don't think we've really gotten much user feedback, so I don't think there's really much value in delaying the release candidate phase any further if we're really going to get any additional value out of that. So I think we're pretty much ready for a 1.0 release any day now.
How many RCs have you done?
2, maybe 3, but they've just been really minor tweaks.
Yep.
Like I think we might go from RC2 to RC3 because we're gonna maybe introduce an empty string constant. But it's like, you know, pretty minor stuff along those lines is what we're changing at this stage.
Okay.
Yeah, sounds like it's ready for 1.0 release.
Now this is
Yeah.
going to
From
get to a
outside-
later topic. Sorry,
Yeah,
I was just going to forward reference the forthcoming topic on implementation first.
Okay, yeah, that's a much deeper thing. But in terms of context propagation from our side, we've only had it in a release of something for a week. So really, we'd like to have it out in the wild until like the end of June, just to see if there's anything that crops up. And if there's nothing, then we'd be fine with a release at that point.
Okay.
Yeah, and then on the Liberty side, we've had it in beta for several months here. I don't know how many people have actually picked it up and tried it out in beta form though.
It's I think yeah, as
So-
John said, we discuss later, right? So we can figure out our process.
Okay, so how about GraphQL? I don't see the other Andy on. Anybody else know about that one?
I can maybe give a quick
Philip.
update. Yeah. So we kind of still busy with parts of the TCK. We are busy with parts of implementation in Liberty. Well, actually in a library called Speaker, which I guess for now is going to be used by both Liberty and any other implementation. So no, I think we might have pushed the API to Maven Central just to make it easy to use, but no actual
That's
TCK.
right. That's
Yes,
right.
so yeah.
You guys did a milestone driver, didn't you, to get it out there?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody know of any other standalone specifications that are at least pushing towards a 1.0 release?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Basically, long-running actions, LRA. We are also getting close to at least release candidate. We have basically one outstanding issue, and we should be good to release.
And you said that was for LRA?
Yes.
Okay. And so you've already done release candidate drivers?
Not yet.
Okay. Okay, good, thanks. Okay, so now with that background, it feeds into the next item. Since these are going to be released separately from the platform, then there needs to be individual release reviews for these versions of the specifications. Now, the reason the platform release helps with this is because whenever a release review is done with Eclipse, all of the repositories are gathered up for the automated IP scan that Eclipse does. And so whenever we do a milestone release, we pick up all the other pieces that have already been done for the other releases, the other component releases. But when we're doing a standalone spec, there is no platform that's picking it up. So this is kind of like a, it could be a timing thing. I'm just going to throw this out as an example. Let's pretend reactive messaging and context propagation are coming close to, okay, they're both going to do 1.0 by the end of June. Just throwing that out as an example. Well, then they could kind of do this together to try and get the release review combined so that it's really just one exercise for Eclipse. Otherwise, if they're on separate schedules, then the release reviews have to be submitted individually to Eclipse and taken through the process.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. I like that. So I think is for the individual, these 4 specs, maybe we can like work out, we can talk with each other, work out when do we plan to do the 1.0 release, and then can get to that dates.
Yeah, and this is another example of what Amelia was getting at. You know, I had told John yesterday, well, I've documented this. Well, the documentation is pretty light because it was sufficient for me, but it probably wouldn't be sufficient for someone brand new coming in and wondering, okay, how do I do LRA 1.0 and take it through the process? So I will update that accordingly.
Yeah, and Kevin, I went through it after you submitted the tickets with Ondro last week, and I saw that you were doing your best at documenting what was changing on this release. And then I went through on to see what else have we done with the releases and keeping up stuff. And nicely, you'd already point out that a few documents were not even a part of what it is today. So then I already submitted a ticket on the marketing side, how we proceed, but also we need something that is so simple. And while we have Edwin volunteer, I think it's going to be a perfect time to start seeing what we have and do not. And it's just going to be fun because the only adjustments are possible is when someone is doing stuff with new eyes. So pretty cool.
Okay. So I didn't have anything else on the current release or what's coming up, unless someone had questions.
Yeah, I typed something in meeting minutes. How can standalone specs coordinate on the release dates?
Yeah, so that's where I think maybe Emily was putting in the other item. I mean, it might just be a matter of reaching out on the Google group to try and find out, okay, who's doing what when.
Yeah, exactly. I'm thinking along the exactly same line. So it's like reactive messaging, we do like RC1 announcement in a minute, and then probably context propagation is kind of the head of the game, and then maybe like if the other GraphQL going to release soon, and then maybe we can kind of in like 3 weeks or something we can do the.
So the biggest thing to remember with these Eclipse release reviews is that they only do them, Eclipse does them on the 1st and 3rd Wednesday of each month.
Oh yeah, that's something, yes, exactly.
Okay. So then all of the material for that release review, I try to have it done 2 weeks in advance. Now, there's a little bit of slippage there that, you know, is still allowed by the Eclipse team, but I try to do it 2 weeks in advance just to give me that buffer.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good. I think we should, discuss on Google group and figure out a time. Okay, I will start something kind of a couple of days to see whether we can kind of group the individual specs into one bigger chunk.
Yep.
Thank you, Kevin.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, so I'll just start speaking for John. I don't know the next person, Ruan, but they've got something on the MicroProfile tutorial that they want to discuss.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
I'm creating a MicroProfile tutorial. Then we have many specs. Then I think we need to create a simple tutorial to each specs. Then we are improving these specs in an incremental process. Okay?
Yep, totally agree with you. So you are actively trying to develop this tutorial?
Yes, because I need to attract the developers to use the MicroProfile.
Yes.
Then this tutorial is to attract the developers. I'm sorry for my delay to reply the email. This week I had some problems and I had a delay to reply.
Let me add something, Ruan. Ruan is from Sao Java, Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, and he has already submitted to the forum issues. Emily is actively involved, and she has provided great feedback on to saying submit via PRs so they can be reviewed and committed, and then that will be the easiest way. And Emily, do you have anything else to add? Because your feedback is awesome, technically speaking, to how we are using it.
Yeah, I really like the idea about this tutorial, and I think that's a great thing to have. I think is my brief feedback. I think is I read the paper. I think is there's a kind of quite a lot of overlap between the spec and the overall description. So I asked Rohan to to look at the spec if he think it can contribute anything to the spec or to the README, that would be good. I think for the tutorial, I'm really think we should focus on the kind of use case, like okay, I use MP config to solve this problem and etc. So I think generally speaking, I really like the what Rohan is going to do about this tutorial idea. So I'm happy to work with you, Rohan. If you need to have a meeting and etc., I can find some time with you to go through your plan, etc.
And Emily, for everyone here, because you already know that Ruan is the representative for South Java, what we're trying to do here, just to be blunt, is to get those developers that are focused on open source to, in Brazil, start developing and pushing and contributing to MicroProfile. For that to happen, first we're going to create the tutorial that Ruan is nicely have chosen to volunteer push. And Emily now is number 2 helping on that side. And then hopefully we will have those developers that are utilizing what is being created, converted into Portuguese, and like that, push it. So the requirement is not going to be to just speak English, it's going to be translated. So Ruan, thank you so much for coming on board. It has been months, and I'm super happy to have you back. We are
Okay, I apologize. I got to put a 30-second cap on this.
Yeah, MicroProfile is better for people like you.
So Cesar has his hand raised. I don't know if he's trying to say something.
Yes, that's right. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. I haven't used that feature before. Okay, so really quickly, Ron, I think it's really great. We already have the Hendrik document also being a work in progress. So, and we had experience from from the conference application that was written a couple years ago. So I think we can reuse most of that material. So we can just focus on the tutorial part of things. But I think we cannot, we have plenty of material to start from.
Wow, thank you.
Right.
Yeah, that's
Awesome. So let's continue this thread in the Google group. I apologize. I'm trying to just do time management here. I see Andy had his hand raised. One thing I was going to bring up is the rest of the agenda. Wondering if we need to adjust the priority or not. We tend to just go down in order, but is there anything that someone thinks is a really high priority? Actually, let me rephrase it. Is there anything that could maybe go to the end if we can't finish, cover next week? All right, so no one's volunteering to kind of move to the end. All right, so let's keep these as short as possible. Let's go to the next one. Emily, CQ.
Yeah, so today I created the MicroProfile React message in RC1, and I also started the CQ. I also updated the wiki to say, okay, when you do the RC, make sure you do the CQ as well. I think I'm trying it out myself, and I think this is really good because we do standard release, and then this is exactly by the time I do final release, all the CQ or sorted. This is much nicer.
So Emily,
yes.
One thing that will eventually help when we had the issues with the CQ right at the end of MicroProfile 3.0.
Yeah.
Martin and somebody else was talking about, boy, it'd be nice to get that built into our build cycle so that these things could be detected earlier. So I don't know where we're at with that effort, but that's something to I explained right away I have no experience on developing tools like that, and so Martin thought that maybe they could provide something like that, but I don't know. Martin, if you have any update on that?
Yeah, actually, I think that I would be able to do this dynamically, but I would need some facilities to run my tool on. Or in other words, I can make it, for instance, part of the CI, but I don't know if we have access to the CI runs.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, we do.
And can I get it?
Yes. I don't know how, but yes, I'm sure we can.
I think you can read the Bugzilla and with the Eclipse team, and then you can get it. I think. If not, they will tell you why not.
So in that sense, I will try to scrum something up in my personal facilities, and if you will like it, then we can somehow put it into MicroProfile CI.
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you. I like the automation.
Okay, so next topic. Andy would like to do a demo. Kevin or Andy, you want to take over?
Yep. Do you mind if I grab the screen share?
Now this is just I'm gonna kind of put a hard time on this. So about 11:50 a.m. my time zone. Yeah, hard 15 minutes. Go.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna ask if I could. What time you want? It says you have to stop sharing before I can start my share though. But yeah, I'll try to keep it towards 10 minutes or less.
Okay, there we go.
Okay, so while this is getting started, the basic idea here is that we are in MicroProfile. We don't really have any official solutions for integration testing. We have these. We come up with these standards that all make sure that your apps are portable to different runtimes in production. But when it comes to testing, Customers are more or less on their own. I think Archillion is probably the best solution we have there today. But I think we could be doing better there, making it easier for the user to write tests that accurately represent how their app runs in production. So what I have here for you guys is just a real quick demo of a prototype that I've been working on, and this has been discussed on the mailing list as well. But the code I have up right here is just a real basic JAX-RS application that's just it's just a CRUD app on a person, some person data that can be sent, received, and updated with JSON. So this uses like JAX-RS, JSON-B, things like that, CDI. And if we want to test this, what I have is a simple test that's very easy to set up. All you have to do, it has 2 requirements to use. One of them is to have Docker installed or access to a Docker machine. And then the other requirement is just to add a Maven dependency for this test framework. So my hope is that this can be useful broadly in the MicroProfile ecosystem for all the runtimes. For example, with this example that I'm going to show you, I have a Docker file that works today with OpenLiberty, Wildfly, Payara, and Tommy. And all I have to do to swap which runtime I'm testing against is just to change my Docker file here. So I'm running integration tests against the exact same Docker container that I'm pushing to the cloud or wherever. So I get really reliable tests, and I get a high level of confidence that what I'm actually testing is the same thing that's running in production. So I'll give this a quick run. It doesn't take too long. And then what happens here is the test framework will look at the Docker file in my local repo, build it on the fly, start it up, wait for an HTTP endpoint to be ready. And then once the Docker container is started and the HTTP endpoint returns a 200, so essentially a readiness check, then it'll start driving the tests. Now, to actually drive the tests, we can inject a REST client proxy that allows us to very easily and in a type-safe way interact with. So here you'll see I have a person service, which is the person service that I have running my app, except what the test client actually operates with is a REST client proxy. So this is very similar to MP REST client. There's just a subtle difference that it works not only with interfaces, but also with concrete classes. So in this first test case, it's calling create person Hank, but what's actually happening here is it's invoking an HTTP GET request, or sorry, I think it's a put request or post request to the running container, and then it's using JSON-B to parse the response back that it gets from that HTTP response. And the same thing works if I get some JSON data, it can bind that into JSON as well. So that's the basic idea. And I think I ran the wrong demo here. I ran the more complex one. But the more complex one actually uses a real MongoDB Docker container in the backend. And that whole thing ran in 36 seconds. So the reason why I wanted to show this on the call is just to kind of socialize it a little bit, get people aware of it, and see if they think this would be something useful to have in some sort of official capacity in the MicroProfile space or not. Right now, this is a GitHub project under the Containers organization, which is a third-party GitHub org that handles the Docker build and run library. But I think if we want, we could separate out the Docker part from sort of the easy test client part and have that be potentially portable and standard for other MicroProfile runtimes. So that's pretty much all I wanted to get through for the main demo, and I guess I'll open it up to questions from here if people have comments or thoughts.
Yeah, so just to clarify your statement, so currently all of this is available in the test containers environment. So maybe we can put a link to the repo in our minutes.
Sure. You cut out there, but I think I got what you were saying, Kevin.
Sorry.
Andy, and you presented this like 2 months ago or something like this. I remember it was a nice demo.
No, that was I think. Are you thinking of Boost, maybe?
Yeah, that was Boost, and you presented nicely, and you already know the process. My question is, how easy or how?
That was a different person.
Yeah.
Okay, Andy. Sorry about this.
Different Andy.
So how that was Alex, and you're Andy. I know this. So the question is, what we ask Alex is, how easy is it once if we move it to a sandbox under the repo of MicroProfile? How is it for us to maintain it in the long term? I mean, it's fine to have a contribution and see if via value and accountability we have something going, but how easy is it to maintain it? Like, can you tell us about this? Who else is working on this? Tell us a little bit more of what's going on.
So test containers itself, which is the layer this sits on top of, is quite popular. It's used in the Spring Boot ecosystem. Their org has 2,500 stars on GitHub just for the Java fork, and they've also forked to other languages as well, such as even .NET has a fork. And then this layer here, what I'm showing here, is just a very thin kind of integration value add layer. So there's really not much code to maintain here, but it's just it's actually more so documentation and examples and showing our customers, here's how you put all these pieces together. And write kind of like a best practice, integration test that's reliable. So I also want to point out one important distinction, that this is actually a concrete implementation of something, whereas all the other things we do in MicroProfile are just specs and interfaces that require some backing implementation. So I think for a test framework, it doesn't really make sense to have a set of interfaces in various implementations. It makes more sense just to have one concrete implementation, because really all the implementation is a client to interact with some running MicroProfile runtime.
So you mean?
I think another thing I could chip in, Amelia, is that I haven't really talked to Andy about this, but I know that in testing our reactive messaging Kafka support in IBM, we're quite keen to eat our own dog food, as it were. So we'll probably be very, very bought into maintaining it and keeping it working well, I think.
Yeah, and as reactive messaging comes up, our customers will have to want to test their reactive messaging apps as well, and that feeds in nicely to the Docker architecture here, where you can actually spin up a real Kafka container and have it interacting with your MicroProfile runtime in a pretty simple way. So I can just show I don't have a Kafka example on me, but I can show what it looks like to spin up a MicroProfile app with Docker. So here it's just, here's spinning up a MicroProfile container and then linking it to a MongoDB container that runs. So this works really well for things that can't easily be mocked out, and you want to have, particularly like databases and messaging engines. And of course, you can put anything you want in a Docker container, so it works for other things as well.
So you're talking about at the end of the day, if we create a repo as the process goes, after you have shown Intel and send a link to the forum and gather some feedback, you are talking about forking and dividing only the data that is relevant to MicroProfile. And are you expecting that community to come to MicroProfile and duplicate their work? Or is only IBM going to be pushing this? What's going on? I'm just trying to see. It's fun. Yeah. We have 2,000 community members, contributors.
Yeah, so the 2,500 contributors or stars, whatever, that's to the test containers layer. That's something that I'm not a key member of. This is already public on GitHub. Anyone can contribute to it today. Open PRs, open issues, and it's right now it's in the test containers org. It does work for other runtimes besides Liberty, so it works with Tommy, Wildfly, Pyar, Micro, all those. And yeah, I did start a thread on the Google group a couple weeks ago, and there's been a good amount of discussion. I left a link to the Git repo in there, but I mainly wanted to just socialize thoughts of, does this even make sense to bring into the MicroProfile sandbox, or is it something we want to keep separate?
Is it possible, I think feedback was giving, add the link to the forum and then link to the Git in the minutes, because you have access to the minutes. The minutes are public, and then let them, push it again, forward that thread again to MicroProfile, and said, I attended the call, the MicroProfile community call, and I presented this, and now let's start like formally the process. Can we do that?
Yeah, we could. I've got 5 minutes left, so I'll just let people, if people want to chime in verbally right now to express their thoughts, I'll let that happen now.
Okay, so I will take my chance then. I think this is very viable because I have seen it work in the Spring environment. I did a workshop on it on DevOps UK.
Hey, Edwin, I don't know if you're cutting out for anyone else, but I can't get your question.
It was clear to me.
Yeah, same here.
Yep, it was.
Okay, can I continue? Or?
Yes, please do.
Okay, so just to make it short, I did a workshop on DevOps UK on test containers, and I used a Spring example. I could see how the Spring framework uses a thin layer to integrate on the test containers framework in JUnit, making integration testing possible that way. And what it basically does is take the heavy lifting of making your own Docker Compose. You don't have to do that anymore because test container takes that out of your hands. But I asked the creators of test containers, what can I do if I'm using Java EE and MicroProfile? And they said, yeah, right now you don't have a thorough integration on that, and maybe you should stick with Archelion. So I was like, man, that we should solve that we also have a layer for our context, and not only Spring to work on test containers. So I think what Andy is proposing is a very viable option to integrate on test containers and make integration testing possible with MicroProfile. Maybe not as a specification, but as a supporting thing that we can use with kind of, it integrates with JUnit, not directly with MicroProfile. So I think maybe we should look something there to integrate it in our context. I hope it makes sense.
Yep,
Yeah,
that makes
great
sense.
feedback. Yeah, thank you. And I think this is really, really cool. I really like, I mean, in the past we talked about improve the test. I think this is really good, and for our end users, they can use this and to do the container test. And besides, as Edwin said, container test is very popular. I know I have been to many conferences. It's a really, really hot topic. And then just to summarize this, Andy, so that means like in your proposal is just like a couple annotations, and then with the adoption of the test container, right? So that's all,
Yep.
all you have. So this
right. Yeah. Right now the core is just like 3 Java classes, maybe 400, 500 lines of code total. And then another thing is collecting together all of the other Maven dependencies. So test containers, the CXF library that I'm using to create the REST client proxy, pulling in Yasin, which is a JSON-B implementation. So kind of rolling up all of the pieces that people would need to go collect into one, one Maven dependency that's easy to add to your POM.
Yeah, I think this is really lightweight as well. Yeah.
I think we need to be careful here. One, because I think everything it's doing can be done today with other tools. So we need to be very certain that what we're doing here is actually something that's differentiated from all those. And also, we don't really want to create an entirely new test thing that's specific to MicroProfile, because then it means it's up to us to maintain it. It would be much better, I think, as you suggested in the Google thread, Andy, that if this was something that was hosted at test containers, so then it could be a Java EE or MicroProfile thing, and it's not something that's specific to us. I think that's the best way to get wide adoption and usage, is not have it be a MicroProfile only thing.
I disagree, actually. I think not the kind of either Java EE or MicroProfile. We see MicroProfile as a kind of prototype, and then try something new if it's kind of feasible, and we can get pushed to the Jakarta EE. For example, this is a really good case. We get a prototype in the MicroProfile, and then we can even push it to the Jakarta EE. So can we get a standardizer there, so that we want it is even more popular and to be used by Jakarta EE as well.
Yeah, so, and then Ken, just to add on to that response. So once the test containers folks learned more about this, they actually suggested separating it out and making, because I think really the innovative novel part here is the interacting, the client side and interacting with the container or just interacting with the runtime as a client in a simple way. And then really the Docker part could be separated out and abstracted away. So other things besides test containers could be used. And we could potentially also go that route where we just have the client side in MicroProfile, and then the test containers could just be something you plug into this. So doesn't have a hard dependency on test containers. But I think someone else is trying to talk. So
yeah, that was David. Technical question,
and this is the last question because we're at the end of the time slot.
Yep.
We're over.
In terms of its relationship to Archillion, in Archillion, you can build up the app in the test case and then push it out, and then you get URLs and stuff injected.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, does this support the same concept of building the app in the test code? Because I see you reference app context group, but I don't see where that app is actually created or built.
Yep. So you might have joined after that point, but basically we're using the exact war that gets built from the build phase. So in this case, these 3 lines of Docker file say start with an Open Liberty base, add my war, add my configuration folder, build that into a Docker container. And then this is the same container I'm pushing to production. So same war, same config, minus environment variables you can set differently. But yeah, I think the important distinction here versus Archillion is you are testing the actual app, that would be going into production. You're not building something up on the fly just for use in the test. Because one of the things that's caught me up before with Archillion is that you sometimes have to pack your test dependencies into the application being tested. Mm-hmm. And that can cause extra class path issues and just different behavior in general in the application being tested. So
okay.
That's only if you run a test inside the container, though. If it's black boxing like you're doing here, then there's nothing that's in the deployment.
All right, so I apologize, guys.
On top of that, so we can discuss it more on the thread.
Yep,
let's cover this there. I apologize.
No problem. Thanks for
it might take me 5 minutes just to find the window. Here we go. Thanks for stopping the sharing there. Let me see if I can share the Chrome browser again. Okay, I think this is it. Okay, so Cesar, looking for volunteers.
Yes, so just 30 seconds. We are about to release a CLI for the MicroProfile starter, and so that we will be able to use the CLI to create extensions for IDEs like Visual Studio Code, IntelliJ, and others. So I'm just wanted to take this opportunity to make a call to the community, for volunteers that would want to help create the extensions for, for the starter from Visual Studio Code, IntelliJ, and Eclipse IDE. That's all. Thank you. So if anybody's interested, please shoot me an email.
All right, or reply on the Google group.
Yes.
So is this a thread there? So I apologize, I don't recall if there's a thread.
Yeah, there was a thread there.
Okay.
I asked for volunteers. Nobody said anything. So thank you, Cesar, for.
You're welcome. Second try. Yeah.
Second try.
Okay, let's move on to Amelia. I think these are going to end up being the last topics here, and the other ones will have to shift to next week.
So
next meeting.
Hold on a second. Ryan, are you okay to park these 2 items that are call to actions that we have had into place for this year until next call, and give Gordon and John more time to be a little bit more technical?
Yeah, that's perfectly fine with me. I mean, you give me 5 seconds, I could explain where they are.
Yeah,
okay, perfect. 1 minute.
The call to actions are found on the blog page. They're right in the top banner and below the top banner.
Can you show? Can you show a screen? John, can you start?
MicroProfile do blog. Yeah, they're in there, and that's it. You click on the call to action, and it will take you to the forum where it explains step by step how to become an author or how to submit, pretty much, and also.
By the way, I think I actually used this to figure out what the URL was for a WordPress author when I when I posted a blog post recently. Perfect. So it works.
So can I raise a comment on this? It seems like we are tailoring the MicroProfile website more towards implementers, like us, and less towards people who want to use MicroProfile. I think we should keep our audience in mind here that when you go to the MicroProfile website, it should be someone who wants to use the technology, like our customers.
That is why project page is going to be readjusted this year, and I think we have a skeleton that drive that will make that page that is meant to be technical be amazing. That page has never been adjusted, and we need your help. You have been one of the ones to push it to say, hey, let's do this. And I really like that, Andy.
I think the best way is to file some specific issues. Like when I say issues, not let's make it more generic, but how. So if you have proposals, then that's the best way to go.
Yes.
And Ryan's a WordPress master. He can put anything on a page, but he's not technical. So you need somebody to say, we need a page that says this, and to give him content. He could totally put it up on it.
I bet you he loved just being called non-technical.
Ryan actually does love to be called.
Yeah, I'm 100% non-technical.
Well, when we're talking, this is important, and one of the reasons why we wanted to show the show and tell, because Andy, Brad, and the show and we need to work on the project page. And
so what I'm saying is the way to improvement here is not to suggest that someone make the improvements, but to suggest the improvements.
Correct. Yeah, issues.
And that's what I did on the mailing list. I just wanted to call it out because I saw it going further in the opposite direction here.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I didn't see that thread in the mailing list, but it's not surprising people might veer it off. But in terms of getting some graphic design help, if you throw Ryan some content, he'll put it up on the page.
Sounds good.
So maybe a reason.
I'm here for you.
And with the suggestions is a good. Thank you.
Yeah, issues created, and then say this is the value. Okay, thank you, Ryan, and thank you, Andy. No one thank you but awesome presentation. Thank you, Ryan.
Thanks for making improvements.
Yeah, thanks, and sorry you had to wait 58 minutes to bring this up, because that was, hopefully you didn't have to hang on for that long. All right, you know what, looking at some of these other items, Gordon, I guess, and Ken, are you okay with punting these till the next meeting? These will be the top items of the next meeting, well, after the status. I don't want to...
So...
Yeah, well, yeah, I didn't want to rush things, rush any of these topics. So, all right, thanks everyone for joining.
John?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Just the very last item, though, that Gordon brought up. I do think that we want to promote MicroProfile as much as possible. So I do know, Eclipse has guidelines as to whether or not MicroProfile is used, but they're very liberal and it's very easy to get. And we should encourage user groups and blog posts and everybody, presentations, to use MicroProfile all over the place.
Yeah, sure. I think they were very good in replying in a very friendly way, but it was only kind of like a fish rather than a fishing rod factory. And what Gnome's webpage is great at is you can read it and you don't have to ask permission. It says, yes, feel free, as long as you treat us with respect, go ahead and do it. And I'll reply back to the email I got suggesting that again, because my email was kind of quite particular asking for that, and they just gave me individual permission.
Okay, so to be honest, I didn't know what the link to Gnomes was about. I took a look and I thought maybe you were saying that MicroProfile was being used, and so I didn't understand that connection. So
it's a URL, but in there there's a license that says here's a standing license for anyone.
Right, now that you've explained it, I understand the link.
Sorry.
You want to draft something up that we could like agree on and publish?
Well, it's probably owned, you know, that's in the Eclipse org's remit, really, and it's probably a legal thing. And in the email I put in, I posted it on the Google group. So in the email you can kind of see that is exactly what I've asked for, but I'll go back again and see. I imagine they're discussing it internally, but I'll go and prod them again.
Well, I believe, you know, the license is currently, the logo is licensed currently under the EPL, I would imagine. And so it's really just a matter of encouraging people to use it and say be respectful, in which case that's more of a encouragement document than anything. You know,
I think people are slightly worried that they're using a trademark without permission, though.
Yeah.
Right. In which, like, if you had something like the Gnomes document, but for MicroProfile that was published on our website, I think that would be wonderful.
Yes.
Yes, and we would just have to get the approval for that wording from Eclipse.
Yes.
But yeah, we're the one who lead that process. So the next step would be having something drafted.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I'll take the GNOME one, redraft it, and I'll reply with an email and suggesting they put it on their page beside the other one.
Well, let's talk about it here first. So it's a proposal from the community, not a proposal from you.
Oh, sorry. I'm confused now. Sorry, David.
Yeah. Well, so rather than you going directly to Eclipse and saying, "I think you should do this for MicroProfile," we should park it by the desk of us first to go, yes, we all agree on this. This is what we want.
Oh, yeah, sure. That's why
I was saying to Eclipse, can we do this? Is there any issues? And then we refine the issues. But, you know, then it's all of us saying this is what we want.
Yeah, sure. That's fine. Well, what I'll do is I'll put it in an agenda item here with the wording. But I don't have any expertise in wording licenses. I was just going to take the GNOME one and do a change.
That works. That's how most.
You're a lawyer now. Go ahead.
Be careful. Maybe you'll be legally compromised for plagiarism now.
Okay.
Well,
okay.
Yeah, I'll bring it back here. Sorry, I didn't mean to overstep.
No, thanks. I thought it would be kind of quick, so I thought it would be good to just try to get that one done.
Let's put it for parking lots.
All right, quick enough. Thanks, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and close the call. Thanks, everyone, for joining. Same bat time, same bat channel, 2 weeks.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Hey, Lauren.